How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, October 3rd, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Saturday, October 2nd, and of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Just to give a sense of where we are in the season, the MLB season is coming to a close. At the same time, the WNBA's semifinals are still in progress at the moment. The NFL and college football seasons are just underway, and same with soccer right across the seas. And just to give a sense, they're about a month in, all of them into their seasons as we are entering the last quarter of the 2021 calendar year. With that said, I'm going to start with the WNBA because they're in the playoffs right now. Looking at the games today, it'll be game 3 for both matchups. The first match will be at 1 o'clock on ESPN as the 6th seed Chicago Sky host the 1st seed Connecticut Sun. This series is tied at 1 after the Chicago Sky took game 1 and the Connecticut Sun took game 2 to even it up. And with home court advantage, Connecticut, it would be best for them to pick up a win at Chicago, as Chicago could seal the series at home. And then taking a look at the game that's following that, the 5th seed Phoenix Mercury are going to host the 2nd seed Las Vegas Aces on ABC. The Aces were able to take game 1 in this series, and then the Mercury took the last one after Diana Taurasi almost dropped a 40-piece. So, of course, now it is a best-of-3 series. The first team to win 2 in both series will be the teams that advance to the WNBA Finals. Taking a look at what's going on in the MLB as that season's coming to a close. Starting off in the Bronx, the New York Yankees, who are fighting for a playoff spot, hosted the AL East champs, the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays would end up beating the Yankees 12-2 to be the only team in the American League to have won 100 games this season. For the New York Yankees, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Jordan Montgomery. He allowed 7 earned runs in 2.2 innings. He would strike out 3. With this loss, Montgomery is 6-7 on the season, and what would be his last start. In the Yankees batting lineup, their first baseman, Anthony Rizzo, would go 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run. Nobody on the team had a multi-hit game. Rizzo's home run was his 22nd. For the Tampa Bay Rays in this matchup, the start was given to Shane Baz. Shane Baz would pitch 2.2 innings, allowing only 1 run and striking out 4 in that span. The win would go to the Rays' second relief pitcher, Luis Patino. Patino would allow no earned runs as he would pitch the 5th and 6th innings. He would strike out 3 batters in that 2-inning span, allowing no earned runs. With this win, he's 5-3. In the Rays batting lineup, their elite right fielder, Randy Arozarena, will go 3 for 4 with 2 runs. Their elite shortstop, Wander Franco, would end up going 3 for 6 with an RBI and 2 runs on the day. Their elite designated hitter, Nelson Cruz, went 2 for 5. Their second baseman, Brandon Lau, went 3 for 5 with 7 RBIs and 3 runs. He would hit his 37th, 38th, and 39th home runs in his 3 per home run outing. Their all-star catcher, Mike Zunino, would go 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs. Zunino hit his 33rd home run of the season. Their center fielder, Manuel Margot, went 2 for 5 with a run. And then their first baseman on the day, Francisco Mejia, would go 2 for 4. With this win, the Tampa Bay Rays are 161. That is the best record in all of the American League. They've already clinched the best record in the number 1 seed. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 7 of their last 10. At the moment, they sit 9 games ahead of the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, who are tied for the second best record in the American League East. With this loss, the New York Yankees are now 91-70. They are tied with the Boston Red Sox for the second best record in the American League East. But on tiebreaker, the Boston Red Sox are sitting above them, so the Yankees are sitting 3rd there, and they're sitting with the second wild card spot. They and the Red Sox are holding on to the 2 wild card spots as they both sit a game ahead of the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays, who are still up for everything because considering that they have not been yet eliminated and all these teams have 1 game left. So as of right now, the Yankees are still on the inside of the playoff picture, but a loss could very well see them fall out of the playoff picture. Jumping out to Toronto, speaking of one of the teams that's still eligible for a playoff spot, the Toronto Blue Jays hosted the Baltimore Orioles, the team that had the worst record and that has the worst record in the American League this season. The Blue Jays would end up beating the Orioles 10-1, scoring all 10 of their runs in the first 5 innings of the game. For the Baltimore Orioles, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, John Means. He allowed 7 runs in 3 innings, striking out 2. With this loss, he's 6-9. In the Orioles batting lineup, nobody on the team would finish with more than 1 hit. It will be attributed to great pitching from Toronto, as Toronto only allowed 2 hits all day from Baltimore. The win would go to their starting pitcher, Alek Manoah. He allowed 1 earned run and 1 hit in 7 innings. He would strike out 10 batters in that span. With this win, Alek Manoah is 9-2 on the 2021 season as it comes to a close. Their center fielder, George Springer, would go 4 for 5 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. George Springer would hit his 20th home run of the season. Their elite first baseman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., would go 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his 47th home run of the year. Their all-star shortstop, Bo Bichette, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 29th home run. Their left fielder, Teoscar Hernandez, would go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 32nd home run of the season. Their third baseman, Santiago Espinal, would go 3 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. And their catcher, Danny Jansen, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. Jansen would hit his 11th home run of the season. With this win, the Toronto Blue Jays are 90-71. That is the 4th best record in the American League East. 4 teams in the American League East have won 90 games this season. The Blue Jays have won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. At the moment, they trail the division champs Tampa Bay Rays by 10 games in the division, and they are sitting alongside the Seattle Mariners 1 game outside of the wild card picture with 1 game left, but their playoff hopes are still alive at the moment. Just to give a sense of where they sit. With this loss, the Baltimore Orioles are now 52-109. That is the worst record in the American League East, and that is the worst record in the American League as well as the worst record in all of baseball. They've lost their last 2 games and they've lost 6 of their last 10. They trail the Tampa Bay Rays by 48 games in the division, and they are one of 8 teams in the American League that have been eliminated from playoff contention with 1 game left in the season. The Orioles now sit alongside the Texas Rangers, the Minnesota Twins, the Kansas City Royals, the Los Angeles Angels, the Detroit Tigers, the Cleveland Indians, and the Oakland Athletics. Jumping out to our nation's capital, the Washington Nationals hosted the Boston Red Sox, and the Red Sox, while fighting for a playoff spot on the line, were able to beat the Nationals 5-3 on some late game heroics. They will go into the 9th inning tied at 1. The Red Sox would score 3 runs on the top of the 9th thanks to an RBI triple from Christian Vasquez, an RBI single from Travis Shaw to bring Christian Vasquez home, and then it was a 2-run home run from Kike Hernandez. It was much needed. The Nats would score 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th, but it wouldn't be enough. And now the Red Sox are now in prime playoff positioning. For the Washington Nationals in this matchup, the start went to Josiah Gray. He allowed 1 earned run and 3 hits in 6 innings. He would strike out 7 on the day. The loss would go to the Nats' third relief pitcher, Tanner Rainey. Rainey allowed 3 earned runs in an inning as he struck out 3. With this loss, he's 1-3. In the Nats batting lineup, their left fielder, Andrew Stevenson, would end up going 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run. He hit his 5th home run of the season. And in the Red Sox batting lineup, Tanner Houck would allow no earned runs and no hits in 5 innings as he struck out 8. The win would go to their setup relief pitcher, Austin Davis. Davis would allow 2 earned runs in .2 innings pitched. He would finish off the 8th inning, and even though he picked up his 3rd blown save of the season, Davis, with this win, is now 1-2 on the season. The save would end up going to the Red Sox closer, Hansel Robles. Robles allowed no earned runs in the 9th inning, striking out a batter. And with this save, he now has 14. As he picked up after the Nats already scored 2 in the bottom of the 9th. For the Red Sox batting lineup, their second baseman, Kike Hernandez, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run, as his late-game home run was his 20th of the season. And then their all-star third baseman, Rafael Devers, would end up going 1-for-5 with an RBI and a run. He would go on to hit his 36th home run of the year. With this win, the Boston Red Sox are now 91-70. They are tied with the New York Yankees for the second best record in the American League East. The Red Sox have won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. They trail the AL East champs Tampa Bay Rays by 9 games in the division. At the moment, they sit alongside the New York Yankees for the 2 AL wildcard spots, and on tiebreaker, the Red Sox are given the top spot between them. And like I said, they are 1 game away from the Mariners and the Blue Jays, who are on the outside with 1 game left, and I guess anything is possible at this point. With this loss, the Washington Nationals are now 65-96. That is the worst record in the National League East. They've lost their last 4 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. They trail the Atlanta Braves by 22.5 games in the division, and they are one of the 10 teams in the National League that have been eliminated from playoff contention this season. Jumping up to the Bay Area, the San Francisco Giants, coming into this matchup with the league's best record, hosted the San Diego Padres. The Giants could have clinched the best record in baseball last night, but the Padres had other plans in mind. They would end up beating the Giants 3-2 thanks to a late game run in the top of the 10th off of an RBI from Jake Cronenworth. For the San Francisco Giants in this matchup, the start was given to Kevin Gausman. Gausman allowed 1 earned run off of 6 hits in 7 innings. He would strike out 5 on the day. The loss would go to the Giants' setup relief pitcher, Kervin Castro. Castro allowed 1 run in .2 innings pitched. He would start off the 10th but not finish. He would strike out a batter, and with this loss, he's 1-1. In the Giants' batting lineup, nobody on the team would finish with more than 1 hit. And then for the San Diego Padres in this matchup, the start went to Joe Musgrove. He allowed 1 earned run in 5 innings as he struck out 4. The win for San Diego would go to their setup relief pitcher, Tim Hill. Hill would allow no earned runs in the 9th inning. With this win, he's 6-6. And the save would go to the Padres closer, Mark Melancon. Melancon would allow no earned runs in the 10th inning as he struck out a batter. He picked up his 39th save of the season. In the Padres batting lineup, their elite shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., would go 2-for-5. Their right fielder, Jurickson Profar, went 2-for-4. And then their left fielder, Jake Marisnick, would end up going 2-for-4 as well. With this win, the San Diego Padres are 79-82. That is the 3rd best record in the National League West. They've only won 2 of their last 10 games as they trail the NL West leaders, San Francisco Giants, by 27 games in the division. And the Padres are one of 10 teams in the National League that have been eliminated from playoff contention. With this loss, the San Francisco Giants are now 106-55. That is still the best record in the National League West, the best record in the National League, and the best record in all of baseball. They've only lost 2 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they sit only 1 game ahead of the Los Angeles Dodgers with 1 game left in the season. With a win today, or with a Dodgers loss, these Giants will clinch the best record in baseball, as it literally is coming down to the final game to determine whether they're going to be playing 1 wild card game to determine their fate, or if they're going to get a chance to host the winner of the wild card series. That's how crucial it is for them at this point of the season. But at the moment, they are still holding on to the number 1 seed in the playoff picture, sitting ahead of the 2nd seed Milwaukee Brewers, who've won the NL Central, and they sit ahead of the 3rd seed Atlanta Braves, who have already won the National League East. Jumping out to Miami, speaking of the National League East, the Miami Marlins hosted the Philadelphia Phillies in a matchup where neither team was fighting for a playoff spot. The Marlins would end up beating the Phillies 3-1. They scored all 3 of their runs in the 3rd inning off of a 3-run home run from Jazz Chisholm. For the Philadelphia Phillies in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Hans Kraus. Hans Kraus would allow 3 earned runs off of 2 hits in 4 innings as he struck out a batter. With this loss, he's 0-2. In the Phillies batting lineup, their shortstop, Freddie Galvis, went 2-for-4 with a run. And then for the Miami Marlins, the win went to their starting pitcher, Jesus Luzardo. He allowed 1 earned run in 5.1 innings as he struck out 11. With this win, he's now 6-9. The save would end up going to the Marlins closer. The closer in this matchup was Dylan Floro. Floro allowed no earned runs in the 9th inning as he struck out 2 batters. With this save, he now has 14. Like I said, Jesus Luzardo, big performance from him, 11 strikeouts in 5.1 innings. He's 6-9 on the year. In the Marlins batting lineup, their shortstop Miguel Rojas will go 2 for 3 with a run. He was the only player in the Marlins lineup with a multi-hit game. With this win, the Miami Marlins are 66-95. That is the fourth best record in the National League East. They've won 2 of their last 10 games, and they now trail the NL East champs Atlanta Braves by 21.5 games in the division. With this loss, the Philadelphia Phillies are now 82-79. That is the second best record in the National League East. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games, and they trailed the division champs Atlanta Braves by 5.5 games in the division. The Marlins and Phillies are 2 of the 10 teams in the National League that have been eliminated from playoff contention this year. Jumping out to Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Pirates hosted the Cincinnati Reds. These are 2 more teams in the National League that weren't fighting for playoff spots. But regardless, the Pirates were able to beat the Reds 8-6, scoring all 8 of their runs between the 5th and 7th inning, scoring 6 runs in the 5th inning alone. For the Cincinnati Reds in this matchup, the start went to Tyler Mahle. Mahle would allow 6 earned runs in 4.1 innings. He would strike out 6 batters before getting pulled in the 5th. The loss would go to the Reds' second relief pitcher for the day, Tony Santillan. Tony Santillan would allow 1 earned run in 1 inning pitched. He would pitch the entire 6th inning. He would strike out 2 batters, and with this loss, he's now 1-3. In the Reds batting lineup, their catcher Tyler Stevenson went 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Their elite third baseman Eugenio Suarez would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his 31st home run of the year. And then their right fielder Nick Castellanos went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his 34th home run of the year. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, the start was given to Max Kranick. Max Kranick would allow 4 runs in 4 innings pitched. He struck out 2 on the day. The win would go to the Pirates' third relief pitcher on the day, Nick Mears. He allowed no earned runs in .1 inning pitched as he would finish off the 6th inning. He would pick up his 5th blown save of the season, and with this win, he's now 1-0. The save will go to the Pirates' closer, Chris Stratton. Chris Stratton allowed no earned runs in the 9th inning as he struck out a batter. He picked up his 8th strikeout of the year. In the Pirates' batting lineup, their center fielder, Brian Reynolds, went 4 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Their left fielder, Ben Gamel, went 3 for 4 with a run. Their third baseman, Michael Chavis, would go 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Their catcher, Jacob Stallings, would go 2 for 3 with 2 runs. And then their shortstop, O'Neal Cruz, would end up going 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. With this win, the Pittsburgh Pirates are now 61-100. They are the second team in the National League to have crossed the 100-loss threshold this season. But regardless, with this win, they've now won their last 2, and they've won 4 of their last 10 games. They trailed the division champs, Milwaukee Brewers, by 34 games. And with this loss, the Cincinnati Reds are now 82-79. That is the third best record in the National League Central. They've lost their last 4 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. They trailed the division champs, Milwaukee Brewers, by 13 games in the division. And alongside the Pirates, the Cincinnati Reds are one of the 10 teams that have been eliminated from playoff contention in the National League. Jumping out to Dallas, the Texas Rangers hosted the Cleveland Indians, and in both of these teams' second to last matchup of the 2021 campaign, the Rangers would end up beating the Indians 7-2. The score was tied at 1. The Rangers would create separation in the bottom of the 4th off of a 3-run home run from Jonah Heim. And then for the Cleveland Indians for this matchup, their loss would go to their starting pitcher, Triston McKenzie. McKenzie would allow 4 earned runs in 4 innings as he struck out 2. With this loss, he's 5-9. In the Indians batting lineup, nobody on the team finished with more than 1 hit. That would be attributed to great pitching from the Texas Rangers side. The win went to their starting pitcher, Jordan Lyles, who picked up his 10th win of the season in his final start. He allowed 1 earned run and 2 hits in 7 innings as he struck out 8 on the day. With this win, he's now 10-13 on the year. And in the Rangers batting lineup, their designated hitter, Nate Lowe, went 2 for 4 with 2 runs. And he was the only player on the team that had more than 1 hit. With this win, the Texas Rangers are now 60-101. That is the worst record in the American League West and the second worst record in the American League. They've won 5 of their last 10 games as they trail the American League West division champs, Houston Astros, by 34 games. And then with this loss, the Cleveland Indians are 79-82. That is the second best record in the American League Central. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games as they trail the division champs Chicago White Sox by 14 games. The Indians and Rangers are 2 of the 8 teams in the American League that have been eliminated from playoff contention this year. Jumping out to Houston, the Houston Astros hosted the Oakland Athletics. And in this matchup, the Astros would beat the Athletics 10-4 in order to keep their hopes alive for the second American League playoff spot, as they are fighting for home field advantage against the Chicago White Sox at this point. And then, like I said, the Astros will pick up a 10-4 win at home. Very crucial win. They will pick up 6 of their 10 runs in the first 3 innings. For the Oakland Athletics in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Paul Blackburn. Blackburn allowed 6 earned runs in 2 innings as he struck out 2. With this loss, he's 1-4. In the Athletics batting lineup, their second baseman, Tony Kemp, would go 4 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their center fielder, Starling Marte, went 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. And then their first baseman, Matt Olson, went 2 for 5. For the Houston Astros, the start went to Jake Odorizzi. He allowed 3 earned runs in 4.2 innings. He would strike out 3 before getting pulled in the 5th inning, and the win would go to their first relief pitcher, Phil Maton. Phil Maton would allow no earned runs in 0.1 inning as he finished off the 5th inning. With this win, he's now 6-0. In the Astros batting lineup, their elite second baseman, Jose Altuve, went 4 for 5 with 2 runs. Their designated hitter, Michael Brantley, went 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Their first baseman, Yuli Gurriel, would end up going 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their left fielder, Yordan Alvarez, would go 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run as he hit his 33rd home run of the season. With this win, the Houston Astros are 94-67. That is the best record in the American League West. As a matter of fact, they've already won the division. They've won 4 of their last 10 games as they sit 4 games ahead of the second-place Seattle Mariners in the division. At the moment, the Houston Astros are holding on to the 2nd seed in the American League playoff picture. They already trailed these Tampa Bay Rays, who have already clinched the best record in the American League. At the moment, with 1 game left, they sit 1 game ahead of the Chicago White Sox. A win in their next game or a Chicago White Sox loss would secure the 2nd seed and home field advantage against the White Sox for the Houston Astros to go into the American League Divisional Series. With this loss, the Oakland Athletics are now 86-75. That is the 3rd best record in the American League West. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games as they trailed the Houston Astros by 8 games in the division. The Oakland Athletics are one of the 8 teams in the American League that have failed to qualify for playoff contention, especially with 1 game left in the season, as they have 1 more game left in their campaign. Jumping out to Missouri, the Kansas City Royals hosted the Minnesota Twins. The Twins would end up beating the Royals 4-0 as they shut the Royals out, holding them to 3 hits all game. For the Royals in their penultimate matchup of the season would be led by their starting pitcher, Kris Bubic, and Bubic would pick up the loss. Bubic allowed 3 runs in 6.2 innings. He would strike out 5 batters before getting pulled in the 7th inning, and with this loss, he's 6-7. In the Royals batting lineup, their catcher for the day, Cam Gallagher, would go 2 for 3. He was the only player with a multi-hit game. Whit Merrifield was the only other player with a hit. For the Minnesota Twins, the win went to their starting pitcher, Griffin Jax. He allowed no earned runs and only 1 hit in 5 innings as he struck out 3 batters on the day. With this win, Griffin Jax is 4-5 for the Twins. In the Twins batting lineup, their designated hitter, Miguel Sano, would go 2 for 4 with a run. Their second baseman, Luis Arraez, would end up going 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. And then the Minnesota Twins right fielder, Jake Cave, would end up going 2 for 4. With this win, the Minnesota Twins are now 72-89. That is the worst record in the American League Central and the 3rd worst record in the American League. They've won 6 of their last 10 games as they trail the American League Central champs, Chicago White Sox, by 21 games. With this loss, the Kansas City Royals are now 74-87. That is the 2nd worst record, or the 4th best record in the American League Central. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games as they trail the White Sox by 19 games within the division. Both the Minnesota Twins and the Kansas City Royals are 2 of the 8 teams in the American League that have been eliminated from playoff contention at this point of the season. Jumping out to the south side of Chicago, the Chicago White Sox, the American League Central champs, hosted the Detroit Tigers. And while competing for the second seed in the playoffs, while that was still up for grabs, the White Sox were able to pull off a late game win against the Tigers. The Tigers would go into the 8th inning, leading 5-3 at that point, or 4-3 at that point. They were up by 4. They were up 4-0 at one point. The White Sox would score 3 at the bottom of the 7th to at least make it a one-run game. It would be a 2-run home run from Yoan Moncada to put the White Sox in the lead and give them a much-needed win in their season. For the Detroit Tigers, the start was given to Matt Manning. Manning pitched 5 innings, allowing no earned runs and only 2 hits. He would strike out 7. The loss would go to the Detroit Tigers closer for the day, Kyle Funkhouser. Funkhouser would allow 2 earned runs in the 8th inning as he struck out 2. He would pick up his 4th blown save of the season, and with this loss, he's 7-4. In the Tigers' batting lineup, their left fielder, Robbie Grossman, was the only player with a multi-hit game as he went 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run. For the AL Central champs, the start went to Lucas Giolito. He allowed 1 earned run and 2 hits in 5 innings. He would strike out 3 on the day. The win would go to the White Sox setup relief pitcher Aaron Bummer. Bummer allowed no earned runs in the 8th inning. With this win, he's now 5-5. The save would go to the White Sox elite closer Liam Hendriks. He allowed no earned runs in the 9th inning as he struck out 2. Liam Hendriks picked up his 38th save of the season. In the White Sox batting lineup, their elite shortstop Tim Anderson went 2 for 4 with an RBI. Their third baseman Yoan Moncada went 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his 14th home run of the season as well as his 32nd and 33rd doubles. With this win, the Chicago White Sox are 93-68. That is the best record in the American League Central. As a matter of fact, they've won the division. They've won their last 6 games, and they've won 8 of their last 10. Their 6-game winning streak is the longest active streak in the major leagues, actually tied with the LA Dodgers. And within the division, they sit 14 games ahead of the second-place Cleveland Indians with 1 more game left in their schedule. In the American League playoff picture, they are holding on to the 3rd seed as they sit behind the Tampa Bay Rays, who have already won the division. They sit 7 games behind them. They sit only 1 game behind the Houston Astros, who've won the American League West. As of right now, the Astros are holding on to that number 2 seed, but it seems as though the White Sox are still in contention for that 2nd spot, as they already know who they're going to face in the first round of the playoffs. With this loss, the Detroit Tigers are now 76-85. That is the 3rd best record in the American League Central. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. They trail the White Sox by 17 games in the division, and the Tigers are 1 of 8 teams in the American League that have failed to qualify for playoff contention. Jumping out to St. Louis, back to Missouri, the Cardinals hosted the Chicago Cubs, and the Cubs would end up beating the Cardinals 6-5 thanks to 2 runs in the 9th inning. The Cardinals were up 5-4, and then it would be a 2-run home run from Ian Happ to see the Cubs pick up their 70th win of the year. For St. Louis, the start went to John Lester. He allowed 4 earned runs in 5 innings. He would strike out 4 on the day. The loss would go to the Cardinals' closer for the day, Luis Garcia. Garcia allowed 2 earned runs in the 9th inning, and he would after picking up his first blown save of the season. With this loss, Garcia is 1-1. In the Cardinals' batting lineup, their left fielder Tyler O'Neill will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. He was the only player on the Cardinals with a multi-hit game. And then for the Chicago Cubs, the start was given to Adrian Sampson. Sampson would allow 1 earned run off of 3 hits in 4 innings. He struck out 7 on the day. The win would go to the Chicago Cubs setup relief pitcher, Jason Adams. Adams would allow no earned runs in the 8th inning as he struck out 2. With this win, he's now 1-0. The loss would go to the Cubs closer, Rowan Wick. Rowan Wick would allow no earned runs in the 9th inning as he struck out 2. With this save, he now has 5 on the year. In the Cubs batting lineup, their third baseman Matt Duffy went 2 for 4 with a run. And then the Cubs right fielder Trace Thompson, brother of elite Warriors shooting guard Klay Thompson, would end up going 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs and a run. With this win, the Chicago Cubs, Trace Thompson hit his 4th home run of the season. With this win, the Chicago Cubs are now 70-91. That is the fourth best record in the National League Central. They've won 3 of their last 10 games as they trailed the Milwaukee Brewers, the NL Central champs, by 25 games in the division. And the Cubs are one of 10 teams in the National League that have failed to qualify for playoff contention this year at this point. With this loss, the St. Louis Cardinals are now 90-71. That is the second best record in the National League Central, and that is the second best record in the National League wildcard picture as they've already clinched that second spot. The Cardinals have lost only 2 of their last 10 games, and they trailed the Brewers by 5 games in the division. Right now they sit 15 games behind the LA Dodgers in the wildcard picture. Right now, they are still figuring out whether they're going to play their wild card game in Los Angeles or in San Francisco. All they know is that they're going to California. With this, right now, that is what the Cardinals are looking like. Jumping out to Atlanta, the National League East champs, Atlanta Braves hosted the New York Mets and were able to pull off a 6-5 win as they held off the Mets' late game comeback. The Mets would score 4 runs in the last 2 innings. It just wouldn't be enough. For the Mets in this matchup, the loss went to their starting pitcher, Carlos Carrasco, who came off that serious injury. He allowed 5 earned runs in 5 innings as he struck out 5. With this loss, Carlos Carrasco would pick up loss number 5. He's now 1-5 on the season. In the Mets batting lineup, their right fielder Michael Conforto would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. He hit his 14th home run of the season yesterday as he was the only New York Met with a multi-hit game. For the Atlanta Braves, the start was given to Jesse Chavez. Chavez would pitch only 2 innings, allowing no earned runs and allowing no hits. The win went to the Braves' first relief pitcher, Drew Smyly. He allowed no earned runs in 3 innings. He would strike out 3 batters in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th innings. With this win, he's 11-4. The save would go to the Braves' closer for the day, Jacob Webb. Webb allowed no earned runs and 0.1 inning pitch as he walked 2 batters before he finished off the game and 1 out. This is his first save of the season, and in the Braves batting lineup, their right fielder, Jock Peterson, went 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 18th home run of the season. Their second baseman, Orlando Arcia, went 2 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their elite first baseman and reigning National League MVP, Freddie Freeman, went 2 for 3 with an RBI. Their left fielder, Eddie Rosario, went 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as well. With this win, the Atlanta Braves are 87-73. That's the best record in the National League East as they've already clinched the National League East title. They've won 8 of their last 10 games as they sit 5.5 games ahead of the second-place Philadelphia Phillies. The Braves have 2 more games left in their schedule, but the question is, because they've already clinched, do they still have to play those last 2 games? I mean, I guess we'll figure that one out. But right now, they're holding on to the 3rd seed in the National League playoff picture as they trail the 1st seed San Francisco Giants. The Giants have yet to clinch their division, but they're still figuring that one out. But the Braves know exactly who and where they're going to play. They are sitting behind the 2nd seed Milwaukee Brewers, who have already clinched the National League Central. And the Braves know that for the next series, they are going to have to play. If they go to 5 games, if they go to 5 games, they're going to have to play 3 of their games in Milwaukee. With this loss, the New York Mets are now 77-84. That is the 3rd best record in the National League East. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games as they trail the Atlanta Braves by 10.5 games within the division. And, of course, the Mets are one of 10 teams in the National League that have failed to qualify for playoff contention. Jumping out to Phoenix, the Arizona Diamondbacks hosted the Colorado Rockies, and in this matchup where neither team was fighting for a playoff spot, the Diamondbacks would beat the Rockies 11-2. The big difference would be their 6 runs that they scored in the first inning. For the Colorado Rockies, the loss went to their starting pitcher, Antonio Senzatella. He allowed 6 earned runs in 0.2 innings pitched. With this loss, he's 4-10. In the Rockies batting lineup, their left fielder, Raimel Tapia, will go 2 for 4. He would be the only player that had a multi-hit game for the Rockies in this matchup. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, the win would go to their elite starting pitcher, Zach Gallen. He allowed 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 6. With this win, he's now 4-10 on the season. In the Diamondbacks batting lineup, their right fielder, Pavin Smith, went 2 for 2 with 3 runs. Their second baseman, Ketel Marte, would end up going 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their first baseman, Christian Walker, would go 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their catcher Carson Kelly went 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their left fielder David Peralta will go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Their third baseman Josh Van Meter went 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run as well. With this win, the Arizona Diamondbacks are 51 and 110. That is the worst record in all of baseball, and that's definitely the worst record in the National League West. They've only won 3 of their last 10 games. They trailed the division-leading San Francisco Giants by 55 games. That is the gap between the best and worst record in the division, the best and worst record in the conference, and the best and worst record in the league at the moment. With this loss, the Colorado Rockies are now 74 and 86. That is the 4th best record in the National League West. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games as they trail the San Francisco Giants by 31.5 games in the division. The Rockies and the Diamondbacks are 2 teams in the National League that have been eliminated from playoff contention. Sitting alongside the Arizona Diamondbacks that have the league's worst record, the other teams that have failed to qualify are the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Washington Nationals, the Miami Marlins, the Chicago Cubs, the Colorado Rockies that the Arizona Diamondbacks just beat, the New York Mets, the San Diego Padres, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Cincinnati Reds. Jumping out to Seattle, the Seattle Mariners hosted the LA Angels, and to keep their playoff hopes alive, the Mariners were able to beat the Angels 6-4. The Angels would put up 3 runs in the top of the 8th to take a 4-3 lead. The Mariners would take the lead back off of a 2-run single from Mitch Haniger to make it 5-4, and then an RBI single from Kyle Seager would make it a 2-run lead. And with this win, the Mariners are still alive. For the Los Angeles Angels in this matchup, the start was given to Jonathan Diaz. Diaz allowed 3 earned runs in 4.1 innings pitched. As he struck out 3, the loss would go to the Angels' setup relief pitcher, Steve Cishek. Steve Cishek would allow 3 earned runs in 0.2 innings pitched. He would start off the 7th inning, but he wouldn't finish it. With this loss, he's 0-2, and he would pick up his 5th blown save of the season. In the Angels' batting lineup, their all-star first baseman, Jared Walsh, went 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run. He hit his 28th home run of the season, and the only other player with a multi-hit game for LA was their second baseman, David Fletcher. For the Seattle Mariners, the start was given to Chris Flexen. He only allowed 1 earned run in 5.1 innings. He would strike out a batter. The win would go to the Mariners' setup relief pitcher, Paul Sewald, who picked up his 5th blown save of the season. He allowed 3 earned runs in the 8th inning, and he would strike out 3. But with this win, he's now 10-3. The save would go to the Mariners' closer, Drew Steckenrider. Steckenrider allowed no earned runs in the 9th inning, and with this save, he now has 14. In the Mariners' batting lineup, their first baseman, Ty France, went 2 for 3 with 3 runs. Their right fielder, Mitch Haniger, went 4 for 5 with 5 RBIs and a run. Mitch Haniger hit his 39th home run of the season. And their third baseman, Kyle Seager, will go 2 for 5 with an RBI. With this win, the Seattle Mariners are 90-71. That is the 2nd best record in the American League West. They've won 8 of their last 10 games as they trailed the division champs, Houston Astros, by 4 games in the division. The Mariners are sitting alongside the Blue Jays outside of the American League wildcard picture by a game as they sit behind the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. Only 1 game separates all of these teams with 1 game left in the season, and none of these teams have clinched a playoff spot, so it literally is all up for grabs. And the Mariners are definitely a team that could see themselves walking away with a playoff seed if they, of course, pick up a win here, but it's not guaranteed to them if they win. With this loss, the Los Angeles Angels are now 76-85. That is the 4th best record in the American League West. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. They trail the American League champs, Houston Astros, by 18 games. They are one of 8 teams in the American League that have failed to qualify for playoff contention. Last but not least, jumping out to Dodger Stadium, the reigning World Series champs took on the 2021 National League champs. The Dodgers would end up beating the Royals 8-3 to take a 10-game lead over the Royals, even though the Dodgers are holding a wild card spot. They have 10 more wins than the Brewers at this point in the season, as they're still fighting for the best record in the National League. For the Milwaukee Brewers in this matchup, in a game with nothing to lose, the loss went to their starting pitcher, their all-star starting pitcher, Corbin Burns. He allowed 3 earned runs in 2 innings as he struck out 4. With this loss, he's 11-5. In the Brewers' batting lineup, their third baseman, Eduardo Escobar, would end up going 2 for 4 with a run for the day. He was the only player on the Brewers, I don't know why I said the Royals, the Brewers, who had more than 1 hit for the day. And for the defending champs, LA Dodgers, the win went to their starting pitcher, Julio Urias. In his last start of the season, he allowed 1 earned run and 1 hit in 6.1 innings pitched. He would strike out 7, and with this win, he's now 20-3. I believe he's the only pitcher this season with 20 wins, so of course, congratulations to him. And in the Dodgers batting lineup, their elite shortstop, Corey Seager, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 16th home run of the year. Their all-star second baseman, Trey Turner, would go 2 for 4 with 2 runs. Their all-star first baseman, Max Muncy, would go 2 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their all-star third baseman, Justin Turner, would go 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. He would go on to hit his 27th home run of the year. With this win, the defending champs, LA Dodgers, are now 105-56. That is the second best record in the National League West, and that's the second best record in all of baseball. They've won their last 6 games. They are tied with the Chicago White Sox for the longest active win streak in baseball right now. They've won 8 of their last 10 games, and they sit 1 game behind the San Francisco Giants in the division. The division title race is up for grabs as both teams have 1 game left. If the Giants win, the Dodgers are not guaranteed, if the Dodgers win, they're not guaranteed the best record in all of baseball. They can only get the best record if they win, and if the Giants lose, I imagine, considering there's only 1 game left and the Dodgers have not been eliminated. But right now, that is what the MLB is, I guess that is what the MLB's second best team is looking like. And then following this loss, the Milwaukee Brewers are now 95-66. That is still the best record in the National League Central. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. They sit 5 games ahead of the second seed St. Louis Cardinals, who have the second wild card spot, just to give a sense of where they sit in their division. And the Milwaukee Brewers, having already clinched the second seed, already know that they're going to go into the playoffs facing off against the Atlanta Braves. So, of course, they're definitely anticipating that matchup coming up. That is what the MLB is looking like as we enter the very last day of MLB baseball. Taking a look at what's going on, especially from the very top of the day, because all these games are being played at roughly the same time. So of course, there's not much time waiting in terms of seeing when the playoff seedings come out. At 3:05 in the nation's capital, Joan Adon and the Washington Nationals are going to host the Boston Red Sox, led by their elite starting pitcher, Chris Sale. Chris Sale comes into this matchup with a 5-1 record, holding a 2.90 ERA for a Boston Red Sox team that is holding one of the 2 spots in the American League wild card. A win for the Red Sox here against the Washington Nationals, the team that holds the worst record in the National League East, would guarantee a playoff spot for the Boston Red Sox this season. At 3:05, Mitch Keller and the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to host Reiver Sanmartin and the Cincinnati Reds in a team where neither team is fighting for a playoff spot. At 3:05, Dane Dunning and the Texas Rangers is going to host Aaron Savali and the Cleveland Indians, as this is both teams' last matchup. For Cleveland, this is going to be their last matchup going by the name the Indians. The next season, they're going to be known as the Cleveland Guardians. The very last starting pitcher for the Cleveland Indians will be Aaron Savali. Savali enters his matchup with an 11-5 record, holding a 4.03 ERA. At 3:05 at the same time, the San Francisco Giants, led by Logan Webb, are going to try to secure the best record in all of baseball as they host Reese Nair in the San Diego Padres. Logan Webb enters his matchup with a 10-3 record, holding a 2.93 ERA. Like I said, if the Giants are able to knock off the Padres, who hold the 3rd best record in the National League West, it would guarantee the Giants the best record in all of baseball, and it would guarantee them a spot, and it would guarantee that they play the winner of the wild card matchup for the first round of the playoffs. At the same time, at 3:05, Jameson Taillon and the New York Yankees are going to host Michael Wacha and the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays have already secured a playoff spot. They have not much to play. They already secured the number 1 seed, so no matter what, they are going to play the team with the best record, or they're going to play the team that wins the American League wild card matchup. But of course, The Yankees, holding a 91-70 record, are holding one of the two American League wildcard spots. They have not yet clinched their spot, so a loss could very well see them fall out. But a win against the Tampa Bay Rays would see the New York Yankees guaranteed a playoff spot for the 2021 postseason. At 3:07, the Toronto Blue Jays, who are also fighting for a playoff spot, led by their elite starting pitcher Hyunjin Ryu, are going to host Bruce Zimmerman and the Baltimore Orioles. Hyunjin Ryu is going to come into this matchup with a 13-10 record, holding a 4.39 ERA. The Blue Jays, alongside the Mariners, are sitting one game outside of the wild card. If they win, they're not necessarily guaranteed a playoff spot, but of course, it would do a lot for them. As of right now, they have to win this last matchup against the worst team in the American League. At least they have a pretty favorable opportunity to win. At 3:10, the Seattle Mariners, led by Tyler Anderson, are going to host Reed Detmers and the Los Angeles Angels, as the Mariners are the other team that's fighting for that playoff spot along the Blue Jays. They are sitting one game on the outside looking in. They have to win this game, and even if they win the game, the playoff spot is not necessarily guaranteed to them. And of course, the Angels are not fighting for a playoff spot. As the Mariners are going to face off against the fourth best team in the AL West to decide their playoff fate. At the same time, at 3:10, Humberto Mejia and the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to host the Colorado Rockies in their final matchup of the season. As with a win, they could probably tie for the worst record in all of baseball, but with a loss, it would definitely guarantee that the Diamondbacks finish the season with the worst record in baseball. At 3:10, the American League Central champs, Chicago White Sox, are going to host the Detroit Tigers. Dylan Cease is going to take the mound for Chicago, Tyler Alexander for Detroit. Tyler Alexander comes into this matchup with a 2-4 record, holding a 3.95, as the Tigers are no longer fighting for a playoff positioning. Dylan Cease enters this matchup with a 13-7 record, holding a 3.95 ERA as well, as the Chicago White Sox are fighting for that second seed in the American League to see if they can get to try to secure home field advantage versus the Houston Astros. And at 3:10, the defending World Series champs, LA Dodgers, led by their elite starting pitcher, Walker Buehler, are going to host Brett Anderson and the Milwaukee Brewers, who have already won the National League Central. Coming into this matchup, Walker Buehler is holding a 15-4 record and a 2.49 ERA. The Brewers have already clinched the second best record in the National League, and they already know that they're going to host the Atlanta Braves for their playoff matchup. They don't have much to play for, but of course a win would be good. And for the Dodgers, a win would be a lot. If the Giants were to lose, the Dodgers could take the best record in baseball, but of course, the best record in baseball is not guaranteed, so this is a must-win for the LA Dodgers to try to secure at least more than one game of safety in the playoffs this year. At 3:10, at the same time, Jackson Kowar and the Kansas City Royals are going to host Charlie Barnes and the Minnesota Twins. At the same time, at 3:10, Jose Urquidy and the AL West champs, Houston Astros, are going to host Cole Irvin and the Oakland Athletics. Athletics have already been eliminated, but of course, for the Astros, with Jose Urquidy, they're looking to secure the second best record in the American League. With a win here, they would secure home field advantage over the Chicago White Sox in their ALDS matchup. Jose Urquidy enters his matchup with an 8-3 record, holding a 3.56 ERA. And then at 3:10, at the same time, Pablo Lopez and the Miami Marlins are going to host the Philadelphia Phillies, as neither team is fighting for a playoff spot. Pablo Lopez enters his matchup with a 5-5 record, holding a 3.03 ERA. At 3:15, Jake Woodford and the St. Louis Cardinals are going to host Alec Mills and the Chicago Cubs in what's going to be their final matchup of the season in their very storied arch rivalry. Jake Woodford enters his matchup with a 3-3 record, holding a 3.88 ERA for the Cardinals, who are holding on to the second seed in the wild card. They know that they're going to be on the road. They still have to wait to see how the Giants and Dodgers game plays out to see where they're going to be going. So that is where they're sitting. And of course, the Cubs are no longer fighting for a playoff spot. So that is what the MLB is looking like as it goes into its very final day of the season. And of course, once all of those matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow for on tomorrow's episode. And I'm going to do individual statistical performance. I'm going to do a bunch of additional episodes to prepare everyone for the playoffs. But until then, I'm going to move on and digress. Taking a look at what's going on in football, starting off with college football and yesterday's games among ranked opponents. Starting with the number one team in the nation, the number one Alabama Crimson Tide hosted the 12th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Alabama was able to pull off a 42-21 win after outscoring Ole Miss 22-0 in the first half. Ole Miss would outscore Alabama 21-14 in the second half, but by then it was too late. For 12th ranked Ole Miss, their starting quarterback Matt Corral threw for 213 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 3 yards and a touchdown. That's 216 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Their leading receiver Chase Rogers had 53 yards on 3 receptions as he had a touchdown. Their leading rusher Henry Parrish had 47 yards on the ground and 23 yards through the air. That's 70 yards. And then their leading tackler, Otis Reese, would have 11 tackles on the day. Additionally, Chance Campbell had 10 tackles and a sack. Keidron Smith would finish with the only interception of the day off of Alabama. And then for Alabama's offense, Bryce Young would lead the way. He would throw for 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Their leading rusher, Brian Robinson Jr., had 171 yards on 36 carries as he had 4 touchdowns. Of course, big performance from him. And then their leading receiver was Jamison Williams, who had 65 yards on 5 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, DeMarco Hellams would lead the team in tackle as he had 10. And then Henry Toto would finish with 10 tackles on the day as Alabama would finish with 2 sacks. With this win, Alabama is now 5-0. They're sitting at 2-0 in the SEC. With this loss, Ole Miss is now 3-1. They are 0-1 in the SEC to start their SEC campaign. Jumping out to the second team in the nation, the Georgia Bulldogs hosted the 8th-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks. And the Georgia Bulldogs would continue to shut Arkansas out, winning 37-0 against a top 10 opponent. For Arkansas in this matchup, their starting quarterback, KJ Jefferson, would throw for only 65 yards through the air and run for 5 yards on the ground. That's 70 total yards of offense. On the defensive side for Arkansas, Grant Morgan led the team with tackles as he had 12 of them, and Bumper Poole would have 11 of them. Arkansas would finish with no interceptions, no sacks on the day as Georgia's offensive line was virtually perfect. Their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, would throw for 72 yards. He also ran for 16. That's 89 total yards of offense. The Georgia Bulldogs leading rusher, James Cook, had 87 yards off of 12 carries. Their second leading rusher, Zamir White, had 68 yards off of 16 carries as he had 2 touchdowns on the ground. On the defensive side of the ball, Devontae Wyatt would lead the team in tackles as he had 6 of them. He had a sack and a half as well. Nakobe Dean would finish with 4 tackles as he had a sack and a half as well. With this win, Georgia is now 5-0 to start their season. They are 3-0 in the SEC. With this loss, 8th-ranked Arkansas is now 4-1. They are 1-1 in the SEC. Jumping to the 3rd-ranked team in the nation, Oregon went to unranked Stanford, and Stanford was able to beat Oregon 31-24 thanks to an overtime touchdown from Tanner McKee to John Humphreys to pick up a much-needed win for Stanford, especially at home, especially against the 3rd-best team in the nation. For the 3rd-ranked Oregon Ducks, their starting quarterback, Anthony Brown, would throw for 186 yards and a pick. He ran for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. That would be a grand total of 221 total yards of offense with 2 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Travis Dye, had 96 yards off of 19 carries. He also had 39 yards through the air. That's 135 yards of offense. Their second leading rusher, CJ Verdell, had 63 yards off of 17 carries and a touchdown. He has had 13 yards through the air. That's 76 total yards of offense and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball for Oregon, Jamal Hill would finish with 8 tackles, as well as Nate Halkolani as he finished with 8 on the day. For the Stanford Cardinal, their starting quarterback, Tanner McKee, would throw for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 14 yards, so that's 244 total yards of offense with his 3 passing touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Nathaniel Pete, would have 78 yards off of 15 carries. He had 12 yards through the air, so that's 90 total yards of offense. Their leading receiver, Elijah Higgins, had 62 yards off of 6 receptions as he had a touchdown. John Humphreys would finish with 53 yards off of 4 receptions as he had a touchdown as well. On the defensive side of the ball for Stanford, Nicholas Toomer would finish with 10 tackles on the day. Lavani Damuni would finish with 9 tackles as he had a sack as well. And then Stanford's Gabe Reed would finish with an interception on the day, as he would also finish with 6 tackles and half a sack. With this win, the unranked Stanford Cardinal are now 3-2. They are 2-1 in the Pac-12. With this loss, third-ranked Oregon is now 4-1, as they are 1-1 in the Pac-12 this season. Jumping to the fourth-ranked team in the nation, the Penn State Nittany Lions hosted the unranked Indiana Hoosiers. They were able to blank Indiana, holding them scoreless as the Nittany Lions scored in every single quarter. In this 24-0 win, their starting quarterback Sean Clifford would throw for 178 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. He was also their second leading rusher, as he had 58 rushing yards on the day. That's 236 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns for him. Their leading rusher, Kevon Lee, would finish with 74 yards on the ground and 84 yards through the air, and 8 yards through the air. That's 82 total yards of offense. And their leading receiver, Jahan Dotson, had 84 yards off of 8 receptions with 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, Ellis Brooks had 8 tackles on the day. And then in the secondary, Jair Brown would finish with an interception, and so would Joey Porter Jr. With this win, the 4th seed Penn State Nittany Lions are now 5-0 to start their season. They are 2-0 in the Big Ten. With this loss, unranked Indiana is now 2-3 to start their season. They are 0-2 in the Big Ten. Jumping out to the 6th-ranked team in the nation, the 6th seed Oklahoma Sooners win to Kansas State to take on the Wildcats. And in a game that was a lot closer than a lot of people thought it would be, the Oklahoma Sooners would pull away with a 37-31 win, as their late game field goal put them up by 13. Kansas State would score in garbage time, but they did have at least a slight chance to come away with it, but Oklahoma was able to shut the door on that quick. For the 6th-ranked Sooners, their starting quarterback, Spencer Rattler, would throw for 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He also ran for 24 yards, so that would be 267 total yards of offense. Their leading rusher was Kennedy Brooks, as he had 91 yards off 15 carries and a touchdown. Their leading receiver, Marvin Mims, would have 71 yards off of 4 receptions. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Pat Fields would finish with 9 total tackles on the day, leading Oklahoma's team. With this win, 6th-ranked Oklahoma is 5-0 to start their season. They are 2-0 in the Big 12. They are tied with Oklahoma State and Texas as those are the 3 undefeated teams remaining in the Big 12. With this loss, unranked Kansas State is now 3-2. They are now 0-2 in the Big 12 to start their season. Jumping out to South Bend, Indiana, 9th-ranked Notre Dame hosted 7th-ranked Cincy. In this matchup, the Bearcats would beat Notre Dame 24-13. They outscored Notre Dame's entire game output in the second inning, or the second quarter, as they would drop 17 points, outscore Notre Dame 17-0 in the first half. For Notre Dame in this matchup, their starting quarterback, Jack Cohn, would throw for 114 yards and a pick. Then he would be replaced by Drew Pine. Drew Pine would throw for 143 yards and a touchdown of his own, as he rushed for 10 yards. That's 153 yards of offense. On the ground, Kyron Williams, their running back, had 45 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He also had 19 yards through the air. That would end up being 64 total yards of offense. Notre Dame's leading receiver, Michael Mayer, had 93 yards off of 8 receptions. And then on the defensive side of the ball, J.D. Bertrand and Isaiah Pryor would lead the team in tackles. They both had 6 of them. And then Isaiah Foskey, along with 3 tackles, would have the team's only sack of the day. For the 7th seed Cincinnati Bearcats, their starting quarterback, Desmond Ridder, would throw for 296 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 26 yards and a touchdown, so that would be 323 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Jerome Ford, would finish with 67 yards on the ground and a yard through the air. Cincinnati's leading receiver, Alec Pierce, would finish with 144 yards off of 6 receptions. Their second leading receiver, Leonard Taylor, had 70 yards off of 4 receptions and a touchdown. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Ty Van Fossen would finish with 8 tackles on the day. And right now they would finish with 2 interceptions on the day, as Deshaun Pace would finish with 7 tackles and an interception. And then Amon Gardner would get an interception to, of course, go with his 2 tackles. With this win, 7th seed Cincinnati is now 4-0 on the year. And with this loss, 9th-ranked Notre Dame is now 4-1 to start their season. Jumping out looking out to see what the 10th-ranked team in the nation was doing, the 10th seed Florida Gators went to face off against the Kentucky Wildcats, who were unranked, and Kentucky would end up beating Florida 20-13, and what would be a crazy upset that would see the Kentucky fans storm the field. Florida had the chance; they had opportunities, but of course Kentucky was just able to keep Florida from winning the game. Taking a look at what 10th seed Florida was able to do in this matchup, their quarterback, Emory Jones, would throw for 203 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He ran for 63 yards on the ground. He had 266 total yards of offense. On the defensive side of the ball, their leading tackler was Mohamed Diabate. He had 11 tackles on the day. And through the air, Travis Johnson would finish with an interception, the only interception that the Gators would register. And then for the Kentucky Wildcats, their starting quarterback, Will Levis, threw for 87 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He also ran for 21 yards. That would end up being 108 total yards of offense. Additionally, their leading rusher, Chris Rodriguez Jr., had 99 yards off 19 carries and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, DeAndre Square would have 13 tackles on the day, leading the team. With this win, unranked Kentucky is 5-0 as they are 3-0 in the SEC so far. They are sitting alongside Georgia, Alabama, and Auburn as the only undefeated teams in the SEC so far. With this loss, 10th seed Florida is now 3-2. They are now 1-2 to start their SEC campaign, as their only other SEC loss was Alabama. Jumping out to see what the 11th-ranked team in the nation is doing. 11th-ranked Ohio State went to face off against Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and the Ohio State Buckeyes would pull off a 52-13 win after they would go on to outscore Rutgers 45-6 in the first half. For 11th-ranked Ohio State, their starting quarterback, C.J. Stroud, threw for 330 yards and 5 touchdowns. He ran for an additional 13 yards. That's 343 total yards of offense. Their leading rusher, Travion Henderson, had 71 yards off of 8 carries, as he also had a touchdown. Their leading receiver, Chris Olave, had 119 yards off of 5 receptions, as he had 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson had 71 yards off 3 receptions, as he had a touchdown as well. On the defensive side of the ball, Ronnie Hickman had 11 tackles on the day. And then Denzel Burke would finish with an interception along with his 3 tackles, as his interception would lead him to the end zone. He would be one of 3 interceptions that the Buckeyes defense would be able to collect. With this win, 11th seed Ohio State is now 4-1. They are 2-0 in the Big Ten. They, alongside Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, and Iowa, are the 5 teams in the Big Ten that are still undefeated in the division. And with this loss, Rutgers is now 3-2 to start their season. They are 0-2 in the Big Ten. Jumping out to the 14th ranked team in the nation, the Michigan Wolverines went to Madison to face off against the Wisconsin Badgers, and the Wolverines would pull off a 38-17 win after they outscored Wisconsin 25-7 in the second half. Really, first half was close. It was 13-10 Michigan, but then they would pull away. For 14th ranked Michigan, their starting quarterback, Cade McNamara, threw for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would also run for 6 yards, so that's over 200 total yards of offense. Their leading receiver was Roman Wilson. He had 81 yards off of 6 receptions. And then on the defensive side of the ball, David Ojabo would finish with 7 tackles on the day, as he had 2.5 sacks. Very monstrous defensive game. And then Daxton Hill would have an interception for himself. With this win, the 14th ranked Michigan Wolverines are now 5-0, as they are 2-0 in the Big Ten. Alongside Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, and Iowa, Michigan is one of 5 teams in the Big Ten that is still undefeated. With this loss, unranked Wisconsin is 1-3, and they are 0-2 to start their Big Ten campaign. Jumping out to the 15th ranked team in the nation, the 15th ranked Texas A&M Aggies were upset by the unranked Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State would end up beating Texas A&M 26-22. It looks as though the big difference, it was very close in both halves. Mississippi State would outscore Texas A&M 17-13 in the first half, and then the second half was basically even. It was a 9-9 second half. For the 15th seed Texas A&M Aggies, their starting quarterback Zach Calzada threw for 135 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He also ran for 6 yards and a touchdown, so that's 141 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Their leading rusher Isaiah Spiller had 100 yards off of 16 carries, so he would have a very nice game for himself. On the defensive side of the ball for Texas A&M, Antonio Johnson would lead the team in tackles. He had 15. Aaron Hansford would have 13. And then for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who came in unranked, their starting quarterback, Will Rogers, would throw for 408 yards and 3 touchdowns. Their leading receiver, Makai Polk, would throw for 126 yards, or he would get 126 yards off of 13 receptions, as he had 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball for Mississippi State, Nathaniel Watson and Jet Johnson would tie for the team high in tackles, as they both had 8. Nathaniel Watson would also post a sack, and then Fred Peters would end up picking off Zach Calzada, as he also would finish with, or as Fred Peters would go on to finish with 3 tackles on the day. With this win, unranked Mississippi State is 3-2 on the season. They are 1-1 in the SEC. With this loss, 15th seed Texas A&M is 3-2 as well, and they are 1-1 they are 0-2 in the SEC. Jumping out to see what's going on with the 16th ranked team in the nation, the 16th seed Coastal Carolina Chanticleers hosted unranked University of Louisiana Monroe, and Coastal Carolina was able to pick up a 59-6 win. They would outscore UL Monroe 38-3 in the first half, and then it would be 21-3 in the second half. For Coastal Carolina, their starting quarterback Grayson McCall threw for 212 yards as he completed all 13 of his pass attempts. He threw for 2 touchdowns as well. He would also go on to run for 8 yards, so that would be 220 total yards of offense. Coastal Carolina's leading rusher, Reese White, had 95 yards off of 15 carries. He would also have 12 yards through the air. That's 107 total yards of offense. Their second leading rusher, Braden Bennett, had 76 yards on 7 carries as he had 2 touchdowns. He had 40 yards through the air, so that would be 116 total yards of offense attached to Braden Bennett's name. On the defensive side of the ball for Coastal Carolina, Teddy Gallagher, who went to my high school, would end up leading the team in tackles. He would have 7 tackles on the day, as he would post a sack as well. And with this win, Coastal Carolina is now 5-0. They are now 1-0 in the Sun Belts to start off their Sun Belt campaign. And with this loss, unranked UL Monroe is now 2-2. They are officially 1-1 in the Sun Belt this season. Jumping out to the 17th ranked team in the nation, the Michigan State Spartans hosted unranked Western Kentucky. Michigan State was able to pull away with the 48-31 win after scoring 42 points in the first half, outscoring Western Kentucky 42-16. In the game for itself, their starting quarterback, Peyton Thorne, would throw for 327 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 31 yards and a touchdown, so that would be 358 total yards of offense and 2 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Kenneth Walker III, would have 126 yards on 24 carries as he had 3 touchdowns. Their leading receiver, Jalen Naylor, had 128 yards on 8 receptions. Their second leading receiver, Jaden Reed, had 128 yards off of 4 receptions as he had a touchdown. And then on the Michigan State defense, their leading tackler was Angelo Gross as he had 16 tackles. And then Cal Halliday would finish with 10 tackles on the day. With this win, Michigan State is now 5-0 to start their season. And right now they are sitting alongside Michigan, Penn State, and Iowa as one of 4 teams in the Big Ten that is still undefeated at this point in the season. With this loss, however, unranked Western Kentucky is now 1-3. Jumping out to the 18th best team in the nation, the Fresno State Bulldogs went all the way out to Hawaii to face off against the Rainbow Warriors. The unranked Hawaii Rainbow Warriors would pull off a 27-24 win after scoring 17 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win. They would win it off of a field goal with 3 minutes left from their kicker Matthew Shipley. For the 18th ranked Fresno State Bulldogs in this matchup, their starting quarterback Jake Haener would throw for 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Their leading rusher, Ronnie Rivers, had 74 yards off of 15 carries, as he also had 59 yards through the air. That would be a combined 133 total yards of offense. Their leading receiver, Zane Pope, had 113 yards off of 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Their second leading receiver, Jalen Cropper, had 73 yards off of 5 receptions as he had a touchdown as well. In Fresno State's defense, LJ Early would lead the team in tackles as he had 7 of them. And then for Hawaii, their quarterback, Braden Shager, would throw for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 7 yards on the game, so that's 123 total yards of offense. Their leading rusher, Day Hunter, had 127 yards on 21 carries. On the defensive side of the ball, Quentin Frazier led the team in tackles as he had 9 alongside Corey Bethley. Bethley would have a sack along with his 9 tackles. He also had 2 interceptions on the day, so Corey Bethley would have one heck of a game. Hawaii would register 4 interceptions on the defense, like I said earlier. And with this win, unranked Hawaii is now 3-3 to start their season, as they are now officially 1-1 in the Mountain West. With this loss, 18th seed Fresno State is now 2-2. They are also 1-1 in the Mountain West at this point in the season. Jumping out to see what's going on with the 19th ranked team in the nation, the Oklahoma State Cowboys hosted the 21st ranked Baylor Bears, and the Baylor Bears would fall just short. Oklahoma State would beat Baylor 24-14 as they would go on to outscore Baylor 14-0 in the first half. And even though Baylor would bring it to within a field goal, Jalen Warren's 4-yard touchdown run would keep Baylor at arm's length for the end of the game. For the 21st ranked Baylor Bears, their starting quarterback Jerry Bohannon would throw for 173 yards and run for 13, as he also had a touchdown. That would be 186 total yards and a touchdown for Bohannon. Their leading rusher, Abram Smith, had 97 yards off of 10 carries as he had a touchdown. Their leading receiver, Drew Estrada, had 88 yards off of 6 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, Dylan Doyle had 15 tackles as Matt Jones also would have 14. For the 19th ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys, their quarterback Spencer Sanders would throw for 182 yards as he threw for a touchdown, and he threw 3 interceptions. He still got the win. Their leading rusher Jalen Warren had 125 yards off of 36 carries as he had 2 touchdowns. He had 5 yards through the air, so that's 130 total yards of offense. And then Spencer Sanders would have 76 total yards off of 12 carries. Their leading receiver, Tay Martin, had 110 yards off of 6 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, Malcolm Rodriguez would lead the team in tackles as he had 11. Colin Oliver would be their third leading tackler as he had 6 on the day. He had 2 sacks attributed to him. With this win, the 19th state Oklahoma State Cowboys are now 5-0 as they are 2-0 in the Big 12. They are tied with Oklahoma with 5-0 records, and they're both undefeated in the division. And also, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and Texas are the 3 remaining teams that are still undefeated through 2 games in the Big 10. With this loss, however, Baylor is now 4-1 to start their season. They are officially 2-1 in the Big 12 as it stands. Jumping out to the number 20 team in the nation, the UCLA Bruins hosted the unranked Arizona State Sun Devils. And unranked Arizona State would beat UCLA 42-23. At halftime, Arizona State was only up 24-23. They would outscore UCLA 18-0 in the second half to run away with this upset against a ranked opponent. For the 20th ranked UCLA Bruins, their starting quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw for 235 yards and a touchdown. He ran for 96 yards as well. That would be 331 total yards of offense. Through the air, Greg Dulcich would finish with 136 yards off of 9 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, they would have 3 players that would finish with 5 tackles, leading the team as no one on the team would register a sack or an interception. For the unranked Arizona State Sun Devils, their starting quarterback Jaden Daniels threw for 286 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would also run for 45 yards of his own, so that would be 331 total yards of offense. Their leading rusher, Rachaad White, would have 69 yards off of 9 carries and 2 touchdowns. He had 38 yards through the air, so that would be a total of 108 total yards of offense. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Kyle Soelle would have 12 tackles on the day, leading the team. With this win, the unranked Arizona Sun Devils are now 4-1 to start their season. They are 2-0 in the Pac-12. With this loss, 20th ranked UCLA is 3-2, and they are now 1-1 in the Pac-12 to start their season. Jumping out to the 22nd ranked team of the nation, the Auburn Tigers went to Baton Rouge to beat the LSU Tigers 2 years removed from their national championship. For the 22nd ranked Auburn Tigers in this matchup, Bo Nix would throw for 255 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for an additional 74 yards and a touchdown. That's 329 total yards of offense, and that's 2 touchdowns. Their leading receiver, John Samuel Shanker, would finish with 102 yards on 5 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, Zacoby McClain would finish with 12 tackles, and then their second leading tackler, Derek Hall, had 8 tackles as he had a sack and a half. Bidarius Knighton would have the team's only interception as he had 5 tackles as well. With this win, the 22nd ranked Auburn Tigers are 4-1 as they are now 1-0 in the SEC. With this loss, unranked LSU is 3-2. They are now 1-1 in the SEC to start their 2021 campaign. Jumping out to the 23rd ranked team in the nation in Raleigh, the NC State Wolfpack hosted unranked Louisiana Tech, and the Wolfpack were able to pull off with a 34-27 win. This win would come down to the ends, but but North Carolina State was able to hold Louisiana Tech at enough arm's length to run away with this win. For the 23rd ranked Wolfpack, their starting quarterback Devin Leary would throw for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Ricky Person Jr., had 90 yards off of 15 carries and a touchdown. He would go on to, like I said, he had a pretty good game for himself. And then their second leading rusher, Zonovan Knight, had 85 yards off of 13 carries and a touchdown. He also would finish with 9 yards through the air. That's 94 total yards of offense and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball for North Carolina State, Isaiah Moore would finish with 10 tackles on the day as he had a sack. He would have one of the team's 3. Jakeem Harris and Aiden White would finish with an interception as well on their ends. With this win, the 23rd ranked NC State Wolfpack are now 4-1 to start their season. With this loss, unranked Louisiana Tech is now 2-3 to start their season at this point. And like I said, that is where NC State is. And with a bunch of teams in the rankings losing, they might move up a good amount of spots. Jumping out to the 24th ranked team in the nation, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons hosted the unranked Louisville Cardinals, and Wake Forest would pull away with a 37-34 win. This game would, of course, be close as well. Wake Forest would have to win this game off of a last-second 29-yard field goal from Nick Skiba. But for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who are still undefeated at this point in the season, their quarterback Sam Hartman would throw for 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He ran for an additional 35 yards and a touchdown. That's 359 total yards of offense, as well as 3 touchdowns on the day. Justice Ellison would finish with 67 yards off of 15 carries and a touchdown. Their leading receiver, Jaquari Roberson, would finish with 135 yards off of 6 receptions. Taylor Morin would be their second leading receiver as he had 122 yards off of 6 receptions and he had a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Travion Red had 11 tackles on the day. With this win, their 24th ranked Wake Forest is now 5-0 to start their season. They are 3-0 in the ACC. They have the best record in the ACC. They, alongside North Carolina State, Pittsburgh, and Virginia Tech, are the 4 remaining undefeated teams in the ACC at this moment. With this loss, however, Louisville is now 3-2 to start their season. They are now 1-1 in the ACC. Last but not least, jumping out to the 25th ranked team in the nation, the Clemson Tigers hosted the unranked Boston College Eagles. The Tigers were able to pull away with a 19-13 win, of course, to see themselves possibly stay within the ranks and see themselves not fall out. For the 25th ranked Tigers, that gave the Boston College Eagles their first loss of the season. The Tigers starting quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, would throw for 207 yards, and he would also run for an additional 50. That's 257 total yards of offense. Their leading rusher, Kobe Pace, had 125 yards off of 19 carries and a touchdown. He also had 41 yards through the air. That would be 166 total yards of offense for him. The Clemson Tigers leading receiver, Joseph Nagata, would finish with 111 yards off of 4 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball for Clemson, their leading tackler was Andrew Booth Jr. He would finish with 8 tackles on the day. Myles Murphy would have 5 total tackles of his own as he had a sack and a half. And then on the secondary, Nolan Turner and R.J. Mickens would each have an interception. With this win, 25th ranked Clemson is 3-2 to start their season. They are 2-1 in the ACC. With this loss, unranked Boston College is 4-0 at the moment, and they are now 0-1 to start their ACC campaign. So that is what college football is looking like at this point. Taking a look at what pro football is looking like today as we navigate through today's matchups. Starting with the 1 o'clock matchup, starting on CBS. The 2-1 Buffalo Bills are going to host the 1-2 Houston Texans. At 1 o'clock, the Chicago Bears, led by Justin Fields in his second career start, are going to host Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. In Atlanta, the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons are going to host the 1-2 Washington Football Team. At the same time, the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys are going to host the 3-0 Carolina Panthers. At the same time, at 1 o'clock, the 1-2 Miami Dolphins are going to host the 0-3 Indianapolis Colts. At also another 1 o'clock game, the Minnesota Vikings are going to host the Cleveland Browns. The New Orleans Saints are going to host the New York Giants. The New York Jets are going to host the Tennessee Titans. The 1-2 Eagles are going to host the 1-2 Kansas City Chiefs. And those are going to be the 1 o'clock games. At 4:05, the 2 3-0 teams in the NFC West are going to face off as the Los Angeles Rams are going to host the Arizona Cardinals. At the same time, is going to be the other 2 teams in the NFC West facing off against one another as the 2-1 San Francisco 49ers are going to host the Seattle Seahawks. At 4:25, the 3-0 Denver Broncos are going to host the 2-1 Baltimore Ravens. At the same time, at 4:25, the 2-1 Green Bay Packers, led by their goated starting quarterback Aaron Rodgers, are going to host the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then at 8:20 tonight, the New England Patriots, led by their rookie starting quarterback Mac Jones, are going to host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the reigning Super Bowl champs, led by their goated starting quarterback Tom Brady, who won 6 of his 7 championships with the New England Patriots. Tonight is Tom Brady's homecoming, as many people are going to be anticipating this. That is what football looks like within the States. Taking a look at what's going on with football overseas. Starting off in England in the Premier League, Manchester United drew with Everton as their only goal came from their French forward, Anthony Martial. Townsend would score for Everton in the 65th minute. And with this draw, both Everton and Man U are currently tied for second in the Premier League table. They both have one more game played than Liverpool, as Liverpool has a chance to surpass them in the table. But right now they're tied for second. Chelsea was able to beat Southampton 3-1 to take sole control over the Premier League. Their second goal will come from Timo Werner, their German forward, after to break their 1-1 tie. And then Ben Chilwell's 89th minute goal would help them pick up a very big win. Until Liverpool, if Liverpool were to win, Liverpool would overtake Chelsea in the table. But as of right now, Chelsea is sitting on top of the Premier League table with the most points. And then looking at what Arsenal did, Arsenal drew with Brighton and Hove Albion. With this draw, Arsenal is holding on to the 9th best record in the Premier League. Taking a look at what's going on in Spanish La Liga, Atletico Madrid hosted Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid would score 2 goals in the first half. Their first goal will come from Thomas Lemar, their French forward, and then Luis Suarez, their elite Uruguayan striker. and he would score in the 44th minute. With this win, Atletico Madrid is now sitting tied with Real Madrid for the most points in the table, but they've played one more game than Real Madrid, so Real Madrid has the chance to overtake them. But right now, Atletico is tied with Real at the top. With this loss, Barcelona now is tied with Valencia and Real Betis for the 9th most points in the table. So Barcelona, not the best start to the season that they would hope. Jumping out to Germany in the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund hosted FC Augsburg, and they were able to pull off a 2-1 win. Guerrero would score the penalty kick to put them up, and after Augsburg would score the equalizer in the 35th minute, it will be a 51-minute goal from the German international, Julian Brandt, to give Borussia Dortmund the 3 points. And even with this win, and with one more game played than Bayern, they still trail Bayern by a point in the table. Right now, Dortmund is tied with FC Freiburg for the second best record in Germany at the moment. And then taking a look what's going on with Leipzig. Leipzig beat Volcom 3-0, and Leipzig is sitting 7th in the table, just to see what they're doing without their coach who went to Bayern. In Serie A, Juventus was able to beat Torino in the Turin Derby. The only goal would come in the 86th minute from the Italian international, Manuel Locatelli. But following Locatelli's 86th minute goal, he would go on, or Juventus is now tied with Atalanta, Lazio, and Bologna for the 6th best record in Serie A at the moment. So right now, that is what Juventus is looking like. And then jumping out to Inter, the reigning Serie A champs, went to Sassuolo and were able to pick up the 2-1 win after Sassuolo picked up the first goal. Edin Dzeko would pick up the 58th minute equalizer off of a header, and then Lautaro Martinez would score in the 78th minute off of a penalty kick to secure victory for the reigning Serie A champs. With this win, Inter is now holding the second best record in Serie A as they trail Napoli by a point in the table with one more game being played. But of course, it was a much needed win for Milan. Taking a look at what's going on with today's soccer matchups, starting from the very top, with the 9:30 matchups, Tottenham Hotspur is going to face off against Aston Villa. They've had a not so favorable slide in the past couple of weeks. Right now, they are tied with Wolves in Brentford for the 10th best record in the table. A win here could possibly see them overtake West Ham for 7th, but right now they're sitting 12th. It could do a lot for them. And then Liverpool is going to face off against Manchester City at 11:30. Liverpool, with a win, would take over the top of the Premier League, but right now they sit 2 points below Chelsea, after Chelsea's already played their matchup. Man City is only 1 point behind Liverpool, but right now they're holding the 6th seed in the Premier League. So a win would do a lot for either team. So this is a highly anticipated matchup that many people are going to be watching, me included. Taking a look at what's going on in Spanish La Liga, Real Madrid, already sitting at the top of the table, is going to face off against Espanyol. That is the 16th best team in the league, and right now being tied with Atletico Madrid, a draw or a win would secure another week for them at the top of the table. And then jumping out to see what's going on with Germany, at 11:30, the reigning Bundesliga champs Bayern Munich are going to host Eintracht Frankfurt. Bayern sits 1 point ahead of Dortmund and SC Freiburg with one less game played. A win could see them, of course, extend their lead as Eintracht Frankfurt is the 14th best team in Germany. Looking at what's going on with Italian Serie A today, Napoli, who has the best record in Serie A, is going to face off against Fiorentina. Fiorentina enters this matchup that's the Florence team. They are entering this matchup with the 5th best record in Serie A, so that's going to be a very good matchup between two Italian pretty solid Italian teams. Atalanta is going to face off against AC Milan, as AC Milan is holding the 3rd best record and Atalanta is sitting 7th. At this point in the table, a win would do a lot for both of them, but it's still incredibly early to really kind of make decisions on how their season's going. And then last but not least, of course, jumping out to Ligue 1, the reigning Ligue 1 champs, Lille, are going to face off against Marseille at 11 a.m. Looking at where they are sitting in Ligue 1, Lille are sitting 12th in the table. They are tied for 10th, as a win would actually do a lot for them here. And then PSG is coming into today undefeated, facing off against Stade Rennais. They've won their first 8 games of the season. We'll see how long that matchup can go. And with that said, I want to, of course, thank everyone for listening to all 90 minutes of this piece. This has been one of the longer ones, and with football season kind of getting back into the sway of things and basketball right around the corner, this is going to start to be a little bit more routine. But with that said, I'm glad to be back in the groove. I'm glad that sports are really back on and jumping around like this. I first off want to thank the ESPN, MLB, NCAA, and WNBA websites for giving me everything I need for this piece. I hope all is well, and once all of today's matchups are done, I will come back tomorrow on October 4th for another episode of The Elite. And until then, I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode after this. Peace out.